In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a fire glow effect in Photoshop. Let's get started. First, select the Quick Selection tool and make a rough selection of the pair. If you make any unwanted selections, just hold Alt and click on those areas to deselect them. Once you're done making the selection, press Ctrl and J to copy the selection onto a separate layer. Now select the background layer. Then go to Select and choose Subject. With the selection of the subject still active, create an exposure adjustment layer and set the exposure values as shown. Hold Ctrl and click the layer mask of this exposure layer to reselect it. Now press Ctrl, Shift and I to invert the selection. With the selection active, create another exposure adjustment layer. Now set the new exposure layer's values as shown. Rename the top layer Pair. Convert it to a smart object and change its blending mode to screen. Next, go to Filter, Blur, and choose Gaussian Blur. Set the radius to 3 pixels and click OK. Press Ctrl and J to create a duplicate of the pair layer. Now double-click the Gaussian blur of the bottom pair layer. Set the radius to 15 pixels. Press Ctrl and J again to create a copy of the bottom pair layer. Double-click Gaussian blur and set the radius to 55 pixels. Once again, press Ctrl and J to create a copy of the bottom pair layer. Double-click Gaussian blur and set the radius to 125 pixels. Create another copy of the bottom pair layer. Double-click Gaussian blur. Set the radius to 250 pixels. Again, create a copy of the bottom pair layer. Double-click Gaussian blur and set the radius to 450 pixels. Now select all the pair layers, then press Ctrl and G to group them. Name the group Glowing Pair. Set the group's blending mode to screen. Press Ctrl and J to create a duplicate of the group and reduce the opacity to 30%. Next, drag and drop the fire image onto the canvas. Resize and place it over the glowing pair as shown. Reduce opacity to see through while placing. Once you're done placing, set opacity back to 100%. Change the fire layer's blending mode to linear dodge. Add a layer mask to it. Select the brush tool. Choose the soft, round brush. Set brush opacity to 50%. Make sure the fire layer's layer mask is selected and foreground color is set to black. Now brush and erase unwanted parts of the fire as shown. Now drag and drop the fire sparks image onto the canvas. Resize. Rotate as needed. Reduce opacity to see through. And place it above the fire. Once positioned, bring opacity back to 100%. Set the fire sparks layer's blending mode to lighten. Add a layer mask to the fire sparks layer. And use the soft round brush. Set brush opacity to 50%. Make sure the fire sparks layer's layer mask is selected. Set foreground color to black. Now brush and erase unwanted parts of the fire sparks image as shown. Select the layer mask of exposure layer 1. Pick the soft round brush. Set brush opacity to 20%. and paint over the subject as shown to add realistic lighting. When brushing over the exposure layer's layer mask, switch between white and black brushes to brighten or darken areas as needed. When brushing the lighting, try brush opacities between 5% and 20% for best results. Once you finish brushing the lighting, make sure your result looks similar to this. Now select the top layer. Then press Ctrl, Shift, Alt, and E together to create a merged copy of all visible layers. Now right-click the merged layer and choose Convert to Smart Object. Then go to Filter and choose Camera Raw Filter. Now set the following settings. Set contrast to 50, shadows to -30, blacks -20, temperature 15, vibrance 15, texture 50, dehaze 40. Under Optics, set Vignette to -100, and click OK. That's it. You've successfully created a fire glow effect in Photoshop. If this tutorial helped, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.